Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Celtic Warband here, and thanks for tuning in to a very epic siege battle in Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD. This is a battle of attrition. It's a very long one, guys, but it is action-packed. So I hope you guys do enjoy, and without further ado, let's get to these army comps. The first attacking army on the battlefield today is, of course, the glorious Spanish Kingdom of Castile, and I'm going to breeze through these army comps, guys, pretty quickly because I don't want the video to be an insanely long amount of time, so we'll just kind of mention generally what I brought. So I brought a couple units of these High Period Spearmen. I've got 4 units of the High Period Pikemen. I think I have 5 units of the Moorish Raiders and 3 units of the Crossbowmen of the High Period. For my heavy infantry, I brought 3 units of Spanish Order Foot Knights and 3 units of dismounted Caballeros. We each were able to bring a catapult and a bombard, so that's what we've done. For my mainline sworded infantry on the 6 towers, I have 6 units of Spanish Order Foot Knights, and the rest of my infantry is 6 units of dismounted Caballeros. For my cavalry, I've brought 2 units of Caballeros, 1 on either side, and my general, the King's Bodyguard, is of course over here. And then I think I have a few units of cavalry over here, 2 units of Spanish Order Knights. And that pretty much rounds out the Spanish attacking force. So that's it for me. Let's go ahead and take a look at my ally. The next attacking army on the battlefield today and supporting the Spanish in the Civil War is the Kingdom of France, commanded by Adrian Fox, and he's got a pretty well-rounded army as well. His mainline infantry are a mix of Sergeants of the High Period and Sergeant d'Armes. For his archers, he's brought 5 units of French archers. He's got some dismounted French chevalier as well. You can see he's got a mix of cavalry, some French chevalier, and he's got some gendarmes over here. For his pikes and halberds, he's brought 2 units of the piquier, which is the pikemen, and then 2 units of the vaudier de commune, which is halberdiers. Then he has also brought 3 units of crossbowmen. He's brought the arbaletier, and his best infantry is held in reserve. He's brought, I think, 6 or 7 units of the dismounted French chevalier, which is the heavy shock infantry. Of course, he has his catapult and his bombard as well. And he has another unit of French chevalier over here. So 2 units of French chevalier and 2 units of gendarmes. And then we have the Royal de France, which is the French king, way in the back. And that is it for the attacking forces. So let's go ahead and take a look at the defenders. Defending the great capital city of Lisbon, we have the Kingdom of Portugal, commanded by the Red Celt, and aiding the Portuguese in their defense is the Kingdom of England, commanded by Noob Nath. So, of course, the English would support the opposite side that the French supported. We're going to kind of breeze through this massive army of 11,000 men defending the city. We'll just hover over what they have brought to the battlefield, because they're all mixed in, so it's really hard to tell. But, starting with the Red Celt's forces over here, he's got a lot of the municipal halberdiers. He's brought a ton of municipal spearmen. I think he has 5 or 6 units of the Bastero de Canto, which is a medium crossbow unit. Both of them do have a catapult. And then we've got some Portuguese nobles of the High Period here. A lot of dismounted Portuguese nobles down by the docks. And is there anything else? He has brought a few slinger units, which he's left in the town center, some levy slingers. And I think that pretty much rounds out his force. So a lot of spears, a lot of swords, some cavalry, and crossbows and slingers. Pretty sure that is it for him. Let's go ahead and take a look at Nath's force, starting with the sneaky cav over here at the back. He's got 4 units of English knights. His general, of course, is over here, the King's Bodyguard. The Portuguese general being over here, also the King's Bodyguard. And we've got more Portuguese nobles here. But the English bringing a lot of the heavy billmen, which are good, excellent for the choke points. A lot of retinue longbowmen, which are terrifying archers for defensive sieges. They've got such good range. They can outrange pretty much everything on the battlefield. For his infantry, he's brought a lot of sergeants, early period sergeants, but he also has a lot of the English foot knights, if I can find whereabouts they are. Actually, they might be over here. Yes, English foot knights over here. So he's brought a lot of them as well. Really solid tier 1 infantry units. They hold choke points pretty good. And I think that pretty much rounds out his force. He's also got a lot of these spearmen, though, of the High Period. I think he has 5 or 6 units of them. Really cool English-looking spears. I think these are new spears as well. They were added in the last update. They only had spear militia previous to this. But I think that pretty much rounds out his entire force. A lot of retinue longbowmen, which are dangerous, the heavy billmen, and then a good mix of these sergeants and the knight's retinue, and of course his catapult. So that is everything for the army comps, guys. I really hope you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get to this battle. Alright guys, welcome to the battlefield, and as you can see, it has officially begun with my Spanish units climbing the walls of Lisbon, and Lisbon has gone through a very extensive bombardment phase. You can see that a lot of their towers have been destroyed, and we've actually sieged them pretty well inside their city. I've actually got some Spanish spears here that are in a shield wall, blocking the gates from any Portuguese cavs sallying out and causing damage to our men as we were doing the bombardment phase. And I really wish I could have shown you guys the bombardment phase, because my bombard attacking skills were on point this round. You can see that my bombard is already up to 181 kills. Now, a couple of little tips and tricks that I can tell you guys as we get the units up onto the walls, because not too much is going on at the moment. So one thing that you can do in these port battles is that if you move your bombard closer to the walls, because the walls aren't blocking this area, you actually will have line of sight across the dockyards. And you can see that I was able to fire my bombard straight into a lot of these Portuguese knights. And I also was able to snipe out the Portuguese catapult. You can see he's lost 3 out of 4 of his catapults. So we've done very well in the bombardment phase so far. Of course, Adrian as well, I think he was firing across and hit one of the catapults as well. But this just goes to show you guys that there is absolutely no need to rush into a siege. That being said, obviously, if it's a timed battle, then the time is against you, but just take your time with it. You can get so many kills if you just wait with your bombard for the right moment, wait for units to appear in a small cluster, and then just get a couple of volleys off. I'm seeing over here that I am getting my Moorish raiders up onto the walls as well. This is another good tactic, again, getting your archers up onto the walls so they have a superior position to fire down onto the defenders. But one other little trick that I believe I didn't really think about until Azarian told me about it in this battle was if you move a siege tower up to the walls but don't bring your men off the walls, as soon as it gets very close to the walls, it actually gives you vision over all of the enemy units inside the city. So with that in mind, I had pushed this siege tower up to the walls but didn't actually disembark the unit. I just kept it next to the walls. And that's how my bombard was able to see all of these units and just pick them apart one by one. So another very good tactic there that you can use. Some might call that a little bit cheesy, but it's just good. It's just good battlefield awareness, in my opinion. Like, to be able to move up a siege tower, obviously you'd have a few units on the top which would be able to scout enemy positions, report it back to your artillery crew, and the artillery crew would begin shelling those positions. But yeah, the Red Celt, who is playing as the Portuguese, unfortunately did lose a lot of his catapults. You can see he's got his last catapult back over here. And he did lose quite a few units as well, which is unfortunate for him. You can see his municipal halberdiers here down to 133 men. Some of his dismounted Portuguese nobles, 144 here, 134. So yeah, they've been a little bit banged up, unfortunately for him. I also got a couple of shots off closer to the town center here on Noob Nath's English Foot Knights, down to 146. So I'm not sure how many kills Azarian's bombard crew did. He only got 10 kills, but I think he was focusing a lot of the towers on the long wall. You can see that he's taken 3 of these towers down. I also have 3 towers down, which is excellent. But they should, I believe, have 1 tower here defending the town center. So this is a bit of a problem for us late game. We will have to focus down that tower or commit units to capture it. You can see here that the English catapult here for Noob Nath is very much alive, so that is good for the defenders. But I'm saving my last bit of units here. As you can see, I've got 1 or 2 shots left, and we do actually have a sally out here. As you can see, we've got some brave dismounted Portuguese nobles of the early period that have pushed out of the gates. My spears, I think, were out of position. I had moved to go after the ram to start ramming down the gate, and they sallied out to stop us from doing that. And you can see a couple of my units here actually getting hit by the burning oil in the gates of Lisbon. So very, very brave here. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at what else is going on. You can see I've got some units down here on the streets already. I pushed one unit in to take on the municipal halberdiers and the municipal spearmen, and then I snuck a second unit of Spanish Order foot knights in to attack the besteros de Conto. So the crossbow is definitely losing that engagement. I'm also focusing down a lot of the crossbows with my Moorish raiders that are over the walls. In siege battles, the archers now in 1212 are so good when you can arc them. The crossbows are not able to arc at all, so they're not really a good choice for siege defenders, I would say, because they need to have a straight shot. And in close quarters combat and in streets like this, I think the archers just perform way better. You can see here 24 kills for this Besteros de Conto, and then for my Moorish Raiders, they're already up to 133 kills. So very, very good there. But the Red Celt, he does have 3 units of Municipal Spearmen holding this line. It looks like he is content to just give up the gate, which makes sense. You can see his spears over here, his Municipal Spearmen and his dismounted Portuguese nobles are wavering due to the Caballeros and the... Oh yeah, the 2 units of Caballeros that I had. We just punched through that infantry, and now I think we will capture the gate very shortly, and then I will be able to push my cavalry through. Now, I was a little bit gung-ho with the attack. Azrian was not really in a position to attack just yet, so I kind of overextended our reach, per se, by attacking so early, because this would allow the defenders to kind of focus down my units in the streets, and I would have no hope of getting reinforcements from the French. But I do see some Pavoisois de Combiné coming over here to challenge the Spearmen of the High Period of England, try to get off the walls. The crossbows have broken, but have luckily returned from routing, but they only have 23 men left in... Or sorry, they only have 23 kills in this unit and 34 men left. But well done. We also have some more Municipal Spearmen being committed over here to protect this flank. But now my cavalry is in, and I am just running amok against these spears here. The Municipal Spearmen did push forwards and stop my cavalry from getting over there, but we are going to get another charge onto the crossbows. Let's go ahead and get a slow motion of this here. The battle happened quite fast. It is a very long battle, but there is a lot of good, quick tactical decisions in this battle. You can see nice charge there into the flank of the Municipal Spearmen, also getting the crossbows for the Portuguese there as well. Unfortunately, 24 kills, and look at the numbers dropping for that crossbow unit. The Municipal Halberdiers starting to waver. Municipal Spearmen, numbers dropping as well. I'm actually firing over and focusing down those Municipal Halberdiers because I didn't really have anything that was going to challenge it in the front lines. I'm trying to save my pikemen and my heavy infantry, the dismounted caballeros, for the late game. And you can see I did bring a few units of crossbows. I've got 3 units of crossbowmen over here. That's for when we get into open areas where I can set them up into the streets and then fire straight into the enemy. But here we go. Again, saving my... what was I saving? My last couple of shots of the bombard managed to eliminate Red Celt's catapult. So he did have a lot of ammunition left in that, so that is unfortunate for him. But now we've just got an all-out commit from the Portuguese. They are flooding units to this front line. They are going to hold these streets and not give up the walls at all. Here we go, another cycle charge into the Municipal Spearmen. Well done by the Red Celt, flooding in some more units. But now, I believe I am pushing in some of my own spearmen to try and stop the Portuguese nobles from coming on down, because remember, I have vision on this road, so I can see everything that's happening. So I'm quickly trying to get my spearmen formed up here to block the cavalry from getting in. It's going to be a very close one. You can see the Red Celt also trying to commit some units here to not allow my spears to get into any kind of formation, like a spear wall. Well done on him. And let's give a slow motion charge for the Portuguese nobles on my poor Spanish spearmen. They are not prepared for this engagement. Take a look at that. Huge hits there. I am quickly trying to get my cavalry back out of the gate because I am well aware that I'm about to be cut off, and any units that are off the walls and in these streets are going to be killed. So I'm quickly trying to get my cavalry out. You can see that looks like some of them were kind of caught up in the fighting, which is a little frustrating. But again, yeah, these Moorish raiders just really hammering down onto the Portuguese. Let's take a look at how the French are doing here. More methodical, I would say. He's slowly moving up some units. You can see Azarian's got some of his sergeants of the high period just coming onto the walls. We've got some more sergeants of the high period that are pushing down to help the Pavazois de Commune in melee against the spears of England. And do we have a sally out over here as well? Oh, it looks like we do. Yeah, the Pavazois de Commune over here were stopped by a charge out from some municipal spearmen. So the Red Celt being so aggressive in this battle. He is really pushing with everything he has. Look at all of the units that are pushing up here. He's pulling up municipal halberdiers. He's got dismounted Portuguese nobles of the early period, more municipal spearmen. He absolutely shattered my spearmen of the high period there, and now he's flanking around my 2 units of caballeros. Mind you, the one has 371 kills, the other has 208. So they have definitely paid for themselves as far as the kill count goes. And over here you can see I've got 2 units of Spanish Order Knights, and I still have control of the gates, so that burning oil is actually killing the Portuguese troops. And here we go, I'm going to quickly try and push forwards my cavalry and get a charge onto the side of these Portuguese nobles. However, he has captured the gate just as I'm moving my units through, and that actually glitches them in the gate, which was really frustrating. I tried to pull them out. 1 unit I think got away, but 1 unit was half in and half out, and it totally glitched them up, and there we go. You can see that I'm just getting burning oil pouring down onto my units, so that was a huge frustration. But I've got more of the Moorish raiders up here. They've got their work cut out for them. They have a lot of targets here to fire down on. So I need to focus this massive blob of infantry as quickly as I can. You can see I'm moving up some of my pikemen now in case they do sally out, because they own this gate now. They can push out and take out all of my archers. I've also got my line of dismounted caballeros, the infantry, ready to go at a moment's notice. But then I see down this path even more infantry being flooded into the gap. We've got, what, three units of dismounted Portuguese nobles of the early period. We've got a couple of units of municipal halberdiers coming in. It is just an all-out flood. And how are we looking over here? It looks like the Pavazois de Commune have formed up, so they are holding strong against the Portuguese. Let's go ahead and put this back onto play. So a very intense battle. I'm sorry I'm not focusing too much on the French side of things, but it's very calm as opposed to my side here. Look at this from the Red Celt too, pushing past my cavalry and actually hitting the backs of my Spanish Order foot knights that have been fighting these municipal spears in melee. So a huge charge over here into the backs of the Spanish Order foot knights, and they are holding strong, but they are not going to be holding for long. And my poor cavalry breaking over here, finally with 231 and 386, not too bad. This third one over here, this is the one that kind of got glitched with half the unit outside and half the unit inside. So I'm only getting 19 kills. Half the unit is already gone, so that was a big disappointment. But I finally broke those municipal spearmen, which is excellent. That will allow me to lock down this cavalry and hopefully save these Spanish Order foot knights, which are holding back 2 units of the municipal spearmen in melee. But we've got even more units coming over here. This was absolutely ridiculous. So the Red Celt is just going all in. He has laid his cards on the table. His whole army is over here stopping me from getting into this gap. And so far, I wouldn't say he's been effective, but he's definitely been an annoyance because I've lost most of my cavalry now. You can see that 3rd unit broke with 34 kills. So that's frustrating. You can see this is the other half of the unit over here that's stuck. They're now retreating, I believe. Yeah, see, broken. So they were stuck in the gateway, which was annoying. This cavalry unit thankfully survived with only 9 kills, but they've already lost like a third of the unit, which isn't ideal. Now what I've done here is I'm kind of making a box in case we have a charge out of all of these units of Portuguese. I'll be able to hem them in with my pikemen and hopefully be able to stop their advance onto my undefended archers. And actually, I'm quickly trying to get my archers up and onto the walls, and it looks like the Portuguese nobles are going to pull back, one with 100 kills, one with 36, so that's pretty solid so far. Eliminating a lot of my cavalry too. He snuck another unit of Portuguese nobles back here, and they are wavering my Spanish ordered foot knights, which was very frustrating. If I lose this flank, I could lose all of the units that are still on the ground. But here we go. Now I've just got all of my Moorish archers up here, and all they are doing is just firing down into this gap. Just look at the amount of infantry that is sitting here in this blob. At the risk of zooming in and just crashing my frames, I'd say that there's probably a good 1,500 men in that one blob, and I am just raining down arrows on them. I'm also moving around a unit of Spanish Order Foot Knights on top of the gate because I'm trying to recapture it again, but he just has so many units in this circle that I have no hopes of capturing it. Thankfully, though, he doesn't have any archers over here that are challenging my archers. You can see he is pushing forward some of his Besteros de Conto, but he lost a lot of his crossbows in that early engagement. So that's definitely good for me so far. And I have one more shot on this bombard. I think I'm saving it for if Nath brings his catapult down. You can see that he's still got 4 out of 4. I was getting a few shots off onto his slingers as well with the bombard. So the bombard has just done so well for me this battle. And there we go, finally breaking that cavalry, I believe. Oh, the spearmen are here. The cavalry is routing. So I did manage to kind of save these Spanish Order Foot Knights, even though they are wavering. They have 147 kills so far, so not too bad. And I'm pushing a second unit of Spanish Order Foot Knights into the breach. If I can break through here and get my cavalry back in, I could really help Azrian and the French get through the walls, because he's having, I think, a tougher time getting out onto the streets. But once he captures this gate, actually, and once these municipal spearmen break, he should have open access into the city. But looks like the English are pretty entrenched, and they've also got some retinue longbowmen, which are terrifying archers to see, especially for defenders. Their range is exceptional. It's way better than anything that the Spanish and the French are going to be able to field. So really, really solid there. We've got to say, I think that's why we brought some of those crossbows, so that we could get into range and really use the armor-piercing damage to whittle them down. But here we go. Yep, just continuing to volley. You can see 130 kills for this unit. This unit is out of ammo, but I've got 242 kills on that one so far, so I'm happy with what they've done. Now they're going to go back into melee, and I'm pushing my third unit up, which already has 100 kills, onto the walls to begin firing down onto this massive blob, which just will not give up. And you can see that he's actually being so aggressive that he's pushing his municipal halberdiers out of the gate once again to fight us in melee. So let's go ahead and put slow motion on again. We're going to utilize slow motion a decent amount in this battle just because it's so much more cinematic. And it is going to be a very long battle, guys, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing in one go, you could always come back to it later. But there's just not a lot I want to cut out in this battle because it was just such a well-played battle. Really, really fun siege. And I mean, oh, look at this guy here. Oh, yes! He just crossed the halberdier, and then the halberdier tried to block the sword, but he just continued on stabbing him and killing him. Well done. Well done indeed. But yeah, the Portuguese, obviously, this is their capital city, so they are desperate to drive back the Spanish from their walls. If they lose their capital, the morale loss for the country is just going to be ridiculous. And of course, the Spanish being supported by the French and the Portuguese being supported by the English. I think it's just whoever the French supports, obviously the English are going to support the opposite. Right, here we go, some more units being pushed into the gap. I've got my Moorish Raiders up here. They are firing down onto the blob still. I've got another unit over here which will be firing down into the Portuguese nobles on this side. So yeah, just look at the dead so far already. Bodies piling up in the streets. And now we've got the Besteros de Conto over here. So they are going to begin firing up the walls. onto my men, but you'll see that they are not very effective when trying to fire up. They don't have an arc anymore, so they really don't get that good of shots off. Now, if some of these units were mine, like these dismounted Portuguese nobles, let's say that was my unit, if they have a clear shot down this street, they would absolutely destroy them. But the thing is, with crossbows now, it's all about positioning. It's not like the early 12 days where crossbows were the meta. That's not the case. And I do hear me shooting something. What am I going for? Oh yeah, I'm actually sniping this unit here of sergeants that are holding this choke point, but I think that might have been my last shot. It is, so 207 kills from my bombard, and keep in mind that I still took down 3 towers, and with the remaining ammunition, I got 207 kills, so that is fantastic for a bombard. And we also have catapults in reserve as well. You can see we've got, this is the bombard crew for Azrian. Where is his catapult? Oh yeah, it's right here. So he's got a catapult and he's already starting to fire into the city. I'm kind of holding my catapult back for now because I think we might need it for the final defense. But here we go. I'm seeing a lot of wavering here. Looks like the catapult crew and the municipal halberdiers have broken. And at this point, I think that the Red Celt stops flooding units in. He's being much more conservative. You can see he's bringing some of his dismounted Portuguese nobles into the choke points. Now that my bombard is finally out of ammunition, I think he's comfortable moving his units back into the positions they were in before the bombardment phase began. I think a couple of shots off onto these English foot knights, which we saw. I thought I fired at his slingers too. Yeah, I clipped a couple of his slingers, but not too much. Not too much at all. And it looks like they are finally capturing this gate over here, which is excellent. Now that the municipal spearmen, they push so far out the gate that they're actually not even in the zone of control anymore. So once we capture it, we'll be able to flood in cavalry. But I believe that the defenders, they have all the choke points covered, so the cavalry won't be super useful at this point. But you just got to be patient. You got to wait for openings. And here we go. Looks like a good shot there from the Besteros de Conto. So, I mean, that's a pretty straight shot. You can see that they're getting some good shots off there. If we zoom up. Yeah, you can see that some of the sergeants of the High Period are taking casualties. I believe they have pretty solid missile block, though. 35, so it's not horrendous, but it's not great. So, hopefully they'll be able to capture the gate in time. And here we go. I'm starting to see some breaking over here. We've got more municipal spearmen. Portuguese nobles are breaking. Municipal spearmen over here are breaking. And yes, now he's starting to pull units back into the choke points. But I'm just going to be focusing down those units with my Moorish raiders as they do retreat, because their backs will be towards me. And yes, there we go. Some huge friendly fire shots. I believe that was from... Or no, that wasn't from Azrian's catapult. Oh yes, sorry. I forgot that England had a catapult here. So yeah, he's actually getting some excellent shots with his catapult straight over these buildings and then right into the backs of my Spanish troops that are fighting the Portuguese in melee. You can see my Moorish raiders, though, 293 kills on this one. How are we looking on this one? 180 kills there. This one here, 187. So, I mean, pretty solid for some Moorish raiders. Not bad at all. But, I mean, this battle is nowhere near over. Claiming the streets is one thing, but getting through these choke points when the defenders have so much infantry still left and the retinue longbowmen, it's going to be a slog. You can see the man count here. We have 10,500. They have 8,500, so they've definitely lost more than we have. We almost started with the same amount of men. And here we go. I'm just seeing the French activate their great French Chevalier. They are coming into the gap. The dismounted French Chevalier over here actually being cut down, though, by a well-positioned unit of crossbows. And this is where the crossbows do begin to shine. Having the crossbows on the flat terrain to fire into these heavily armored knights as they move forwards to engage the English sergeants. They're taking quite a few casualties. And we do have the Provisoire de Communier coming in as well. The cavalry isn't moving in just yet, but I think I think he should have moved in because there's only one unit of English sergeants here, and these 2 units of crossbows are completely undefended. He also could eventually hit my battle over here. He could hit the municipal spearmen in the backs and free up my Spanish order swordsmen. But yeah, here we go. The crossbows realize that cavalry is close, so they have pulled back their crossbows and are sending in even more sergeants into this battle. But we do have some of the buildings being set alight by Azarian. He's, of course, trying to get that settlement damage up so that they suffer some penalties. And here we go. Now the cavalry's coming in. So we'll see exactly what he does with this because I'm not too sure. It's still very much the same what's going on my side. So I think we'll focus on the French for just a little bit and see what's going on. So here we go. We've got the French Chevalier. Okay, so he's actually going to free up his units over here that are fighting in the choke points, I believe. Oh no, he's actually sneaking right around here. Oh, he's such a sneaky guy, getting his cavalry right behind and then charging headlong into this unit of sergeants of the high period. Now he's going to turn it around and try and focus this unit of sergeants, but he will not be able to because some of his unit was already engaging it. So what he's doing instead is he's actually getting into the retinue longbowmen, which is actually the best target to go for. Eliminate these retinue longbowmen would be a boon for us as attackers. But now he's going to pull out his unit. You can see he's only lost 2 men, which is pretty good. I think he should go over here and wreck these spearmen of the high period. I think that's what he's going to do next. We've got a nice little England v France over here. Pretty fitting that the Spanish were actually fighting the Portuguese and the English were fighting the French in this battle. But you can see, there we go, sergeants being pushed in to plug the gap, but a nice solid charge from the French Chevalier. You can see they're up to 65 kills. I see exactly what Nath is doing. He's either trying to plug this gap here or try to get his sergeants around to lock this cavalry in. But if he does try to lock this cavalry in, we do have another unit of cavalry, I believe. Oh yeah, it's over here actually. So he is going to go after these spears, probably hit them. Free up his units, which is a good idea. Let's get a slow motion charge of that. There we go. The attack order has been activated. Oh, and we've actually got a counter charge? No. Those are the same unit. I was going to say they're coming from the opposite side. I was like, did they bring up some more cavalry there? But no, it's just the French there. Getting a huge hit onto the spearmen. They are shaken. They are exhausted from the prolonged fighting. And I'm just looking over here because, as you can see, we've got some English knights that are coming around. And we did not have vision on this back part of the city, so we are not aware that the English have 4 units of English knights back here. So that is something that we will watch in the next coming 10 minutes or so. Surprisingly, my Spanish Order Knights here are breaking, although these ones have been in melee since pretty much the very beginning of the fight. And over here, I'm finally starting to gain control over this area. You can see that there's only 4 or 5 units still left. Actually, Nath, with his dead eye catapult there, getting a huge hit into my men. Thankfully, he's missed the other 3 shots, which is good. But that's the close quarters is actually causing the Red Celts, Portuguese nobles, and spearmen to waver, which isn't ideal. I've also got another fresh unit of Moorish raiders up here, racking up kills. Got 53 over there. This one's got 27. I pushed them up and are firing into the backs of these municipal spearmen of the high period. So yeah, it's not looking good for the Red Celt in this area of the battlefield. But let's take a look at what the cavalry is doing over here. Azarian still being very deadly with his cavalry. I think he's going to cycle in maybe some charges into the spearmen there that surprisingly didn't break. And he can also hit this unit of sergeants, which is out in the open and already wavering. Could maybe clip this unit of sergeants as well. I'm not too sure. Oh, he's actually pulling his spears out? I think he's pulling his spears out maybe to get a charge into these sergeants. I'm interested to see what he's going to be doing there. Oh no, but this is what I'm talking about. So even in shield wall, you can see that the crossbows are able to rip apart these sergeants of the high period. Having the straight shot here is where the crossbows kind of work the best. And I'm watching the artillery fire actually breaking the Provisoire de Comines over there. for the French. But yes, the cavalry did charge into the sergeants there. Look at the amount of dead on this unit. Just being picked apart at close range by the Besteros de Conto. And surprisingly, these sergeants are holding. The cavalry is trying to cycle in and around. We do have a unit of cavalry over here as well. I'm not sure if Azrian saw the English knights at this point, or he's just got it waiting there for now. But yes, more of the Portuguese are starting to break over here, and it looks like Nath actually set fire to his ally city here. You can see that the settlement damage is up to 5% now, thanks to him. But I've got a little bit of wavering going on too. My archers, though, these Moorish raiders, just really good in melee after they've used up all their ammunition. I was really impressed with how well they hold. And let's take a look at what we still have in reserve. 51 minutes still left in this battle, so I will try and make a few cuts here if there are some lulls in the action. But I've still got some dismounted caballeros over here, 3 units. I've also got some dismounted caballeros, the shock infantry, and some Spanish Order foot knights, so 6 units total. Saving my crossbows, I've got a couple units of spears and a couple units of pikes, and my general. But looking at the French, very much alive at this point. He's got most of his archers still with full ammo. His Avaletiers over here still have full ammunition. He's got sergeants out here, and he's saving all of his dismounted French Chevalier over here for the final stand, as well as his Piquier. He also has 2 units of cavalry here that he hasn't used yet, the Gendarme. And yes, finally breaking the sergeants here, and we've got the Portuguese nobles, which charged in, I think, just to stem the tide here for the time being, but they are starting to waver as well. 176 kills, though, by the end of that, so well done there. Unfortunately, this unit of sergeants is kind of surrounded, but now that this cavalry is freed up, Azrian will be able to charge into the flanks and maybe break these sergeants. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. Well done, just running through, a little bit charging into his own men, but I think it is worth it. But look at those. Those must be the retinue longbowmen. They are just shredding the French cavalry here. Come on. Break this flank, break. And finally over here, a nice solid charge into the spearmen. Finally freed up all these units, but again, the retinue longbowmen coming down and unleashing arrows onto this blob. And now we have to figure out how to crack through the English spearmen lines here that are holding the choke points. This choke point will be breaking shortly, but this one is still very strong. More English spearmen here. And I believe the Red Celt has blocked these with some Portuguese nobles. And he has some Portuguese nobles and cavalry in reserve just in case. But this unit that I pushed up, it's up to 130 kills, and this unit of Moorish Raiders, 252. So we have absolutely broken this flank. You can see some more depleted units being pushed in if we push it into slow motion here. Let's take a look at what's going on. Look at those glorious Portuguese nobles. They know that they're going to their deaths, but they do not care. If anything, they just want to maybe add more bodies to the fight and hopefully save their city and their families' lives. Because the Spanish will definitely loot and pillage this capital if they do win. Some more Spanish foot knights being pushed in. Oh, yeah, you can see actually that some of the Portuguese, they're taking down the heavily armored Spanish Order foot knights. The carnage here, absolutely crazy. Oof, this guy, a bit of friendly fire here. This guy's actually got a couple, oh no, he's got 2 arrows now through his back. Well, one through his arm and one through his back. And now he's lost his head. Oh, well, fair enough then. Look at this guy too. This guy's epic. I love the Hospitaller look to some of these units. Oof. Ooh, couple being knocked back here. Oh no! Oh no! Come on, hold, Portuguese noble, hold! Oh no! Sinking to his knees there. Spanish taking them down. Let's go ahead and see what is left of these units here. Yep, so a chain break has just happened for the Portuguese. and their units are leaving the battlefield. And actually, they're charging right into my pikemen, which I have blocked in this gateway, and we have finally recaptured the gatehouse after all that time. So a very epic push from the Red Celt, many units being flooded into this choke point, but unfortunately I did still come out on top. And it looks like the retinue longbow are pulling back. The Besteros de Conto should pull back as well, because this choke point is kind of lost. We do have some more dismounted Portuguese nobles coming here, but I think they are holding in the choke points. And oh, this is a disaster here. You can see I've got my Spanish Order foot knights. I did not notice this cavalry until it was a little bit too late, but I think I still will be able to get a shield wall on them. Here we go. Oh, it was close, but I think I just managed to hang on as that unit came charging in. The second one quickly moving in to bolster the ranks as the cavalry does pull back. So you can see the Portuguese nobles there. 60 kills. How many did they kill on that unit? About 30, so that was pretty solid, that charge. Got some cavalry coming over here as well. And we've got some spears, the Provisoire de Commune over here to block this choke point while we begin whittling down the second layer of defenses. And these retinue longbowmen just will not give up. My Moorish raiders are actually challenging them in a skirmish. Retinue longbowmen actually kind of getting the worst end of the deal, though, which is very surprising. I think just the terrible positioning they're in where I'm hitting them in the flanks, causing them to be quite depleted. Yes, the Moorish Raiders. Go Moorish Raiders. Up to 221 kills there. And all these units, finally, my dismounted caballeros coming back in. I think this is my last unit of cavalry, though. And what I'm going to do is try and go after the retinue longbowmen, make sure that they do not retreat behind allied lines. We've also got a 1v1 between the Portuguese noble unit and the French chevalier. I'm quickly pushing a unit behind the cavalry, but you can see they are not in shield wall, and those crossbows there, the Besteros de Conto, just getting a disgusting volley on those foot knights. We've also got some more foot knights over here. The Portuguese nobles actually trying to stop the unit of Spanish Order foot knights from getting into melee with those crossbows, but it's too late. I think I will catch a few of them before they pull behind the line of English spearmen, and the retinue longbowmen just about to charge out there, but luckily Nubnath was watching what he was doing there and is pulling back his retinue longbowmen. Good retaliation charge there with the Portuguese nobles into the flank of the foot knights, but now I've got the Besteros de Conto in melee. Looks like he is still able to pull them back, though, which is a little frustrating. We've also got the unit of sergeants over here, which is challenging the spearmen, but just some back shots from the retinue longbowmen up over these walls and firing into the sergeants' back, causing them to break. And let's take a look at what else is going on here. Yeah, my cavalry unfortunately did break. I did get a charge into those retinue longbowmen, but they do still survive. Thankfully, my cavalry did come back. I'm not sure if I noticed that, though, because I want to hit the retinue longbowmen once again. But I'm not sure if I notice it, which is too bad. I won't be able to catch them in time. So such an action-packed battle so far, guys. The content is, or sorry, the battle hasn't really gone through a lull yet. It's just non-stop action. It's pretty crazy. Let's take a look at the balance of power. The balance of power is in our favor, 9,200 to 5,700, so we have about a 3,000 man advantage at this point, so we're doing quite well so far. You can see the French Chevalier there trying to pull back. They're being fired on by the retinue longbowmen. Having one unit over here attacking these guys, and look at this. I'm snaking this unit right in behind enemy lines, and now I've got those retinue longbowmen. They are not going to be escaping the battlefield. And here we go, Azrian following suit with his unit of French Chevalier sneaking right around. Hopefully he will get these Besteros de Conto. I think that the Portuguese nobles are not going to move forwards anymore. I think that's a smart decision. Maybe get into shield wall, make sure that the cavalry doesn't break through those lines. But here we go. I've got a few units of Spanish Order Knights, and I'm going to try and charge these crossbows to make sure that they do not fire down upon my men. And there we go. Look at that. Look at that. A unit of, I believe, 6 men actually getting a pretty solid charge on those crossbows. Look how many are on the ground. So don't underestimate cavalry. Even a very small unit like that can do quite a bit of damage. And now around the corner comes the French Chevalier, but unfortunately they are starting to waver due to those retinue longbowmen, which are firing, I believe, from over here, right over these buildings and into the French Chevalier. Now that they've kind of stopped what they're doing, the Bastero de Canto has turned around and is firing right into the flank of the French Chevalier. This unit over here, though, I have surrounded with my Spanish Order, or sorry, my dismounted Caballeros, which I have in here, sneaking another unit through the flank as well. So doing very, very good so far. We've got the Pavisuad de Caminier over here. I think they were going to try and capture this tower, but I guess he decided against it at the last minute. But now we're starting to get our units in. I'm starting to get my reserves into the actual city itself. And here we go. I'm going to start actually fighting in the choke points here. I've got my pikemen here, 97, fighting these dismounted Portuguese nobles of the early period. I've also got some Spanish Order foot knights in reserve backing up the pikemen. And now the Portuguese nobles are charging in to keep the French Chevalier from eliminating this unit of crossbows completely. Looks like the Red Celt will be able to get those out. I'm counter-charging with some dismounted Caballeros to keep the French Chevalier from breaking, because as we've seen, even a unit of 11 knights are deadly, but unfortunately they do shatter. Got some pikemen coming over here to lend a hand to my dismounted Caballeros. I think the dismounted Portuguese nobles are a little bit better than my Caballeros, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we've got some more Bastero de Canto, and look at that. See, this is where the crossbows come in real handy. On these streets here, where they've got a perfect shot, just hitting the pikemen right in the front as they move forwards. These pikemen have virtually no missile block, if you take a look at them. Missile block is 10, and I believe their armor is really low too, at only 35. So I need to quickly get them into melee before I just lose this entire unit to crossbows. Oh, we've got another shot over here from the artillery. Oh man, some huge hits into my men, but unfortunately that will actually cause his own unit to rout as well. And I think he actually did get some friendly fire. Some of the units burning alive. That is a gruesome sight. Very, very awesome and screenshot worthy though. Hold, men. Oh, look at that volley from the retinue longbowmen right up over top from the town center, and they are just going to rain down death onto my men. Here it goes. Oh, man. That is a disgusting volley. You can see we've got a counter volley here from the French archers actually firing onto the flanks of those spearmen. Those spearmen, though, have pretty good missile block, especially when they're in stationary testudo as well, if we take a look at them here. Yeah, their missile block chance is 90, so that is very, very tough not to crack there with archers. However, he's actually doing a pretty good job. You can see that they're losing quite a few. I think it is, again, from firing into their side. I think there's a bonus to armor-piercing damage if you fire onto the side that is opposite their shield, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see that they're holding their shields with the left hand. So if you fire into the right side of it, it gives you a bonus. So yeah, they're actually being picked down pretty easily. We've also got some piquier moving in over here. That's going to crack these spearmen. Spearmen not going to be able to perform well against the pikes. Let's go ahead and put it back onto play. And now the push up to the town center begins, with 43 minutes left on this battle. The grindy choke point battles of Medieval Kingdoms 1212. Look at these pikemen too. The pikemen shaken and exhausted. The retinue longbowmen firing up and over top onto these pikemen here. And my Spanish Order Knights finally breaking that unit of swordsmen. You can see here the dismounted Portuguese nobles finally broken, and now I'm pushing 3 units in to try and crack this spearman wall. Over here as well, you can see that the spearmen are breaking, and that is good because it means the French can actually flank around these spearmen. And there they go, they have shattered. Again, though, more volleys from the retinue longbowmen coming down onto my knights. And we've also got some volleys from the catapult. Not sure what they're firing at. Looks like they're trying to go for some of our archers that are blobbed up. But most of my archers have used up all their ammunition, so if he wants to waste volleys on them, that is fine. What we need to do is protect Azrian's archers, because they still have quite a bit of ammunition left. But I'm moving more pikemen into these choke points as well. You can see that the pikemen are just not performing well against these dismounted Portuguese nobles, which is pretty crazy. You would think that the pikemen would be able to best swordsmen in melee, but I think with the help of the retinue longbows just firing down onto them, you can see, yeah, look at their numbers. Down to 60 men. And we've still got this cavalry kind of just sitting back here and waiting for the opportune moment to strike. And I think that this choke point battle goes on for quite some time, guys. So let's go ahead and make a little bit of a cut, and I'll bring it back when we have some new action for you. Alright guys, well we didn't have to wait too long for more action to arrive because the English Knights have been activated. If you guys remember from the beginning of the battle, there were 4 units of English Knights at the back corner of the city. And unfortunately over here, due to the retinue longbowmen, I lost this flank here. My pikemen were destroyed and my swords were as well. And the unit of English Knights has actually broken through my Spanish Order foot knights and is actually getting into all of our archers. Look at this mistake. This is pretty sloppy on our part as attackers. We don't really have anything defending all of our archers, and this is a lot of ammunition which could be used for the final, the final siege of the town center. We're going to need all the volleys that we can get. So I have to send in my King's Bodyguard over here. So the King of Castile is actually pushing forwards to eliminate these English Knights, which have already gotten 115 kills since they've been activated moments ago. Over here you can see there are still some knight units though. He's got 2 units of knights plus we've got the Portuguese King's Bodyguard over here. We do have the English King's Bodyguard behind the main town center, as well as another unit of English Knights of the High Period. And I'm pretty much out of cavalry at this point. I have my King's Bodyguard, and that's it. And Azrian, I think, has 3 units of cavalry, so not too bad. But his cavalry is so far away. It might have been better for us to have our cavalry close by to the archers to defend them a little bit more properly. But even still over here, I'm finally able to waver these dismounted Portuguese nobles with my Spanish Order foot knights. You can see I'm sending a 2nd unit into the gap as well. But again, as soon as I come over here and start fighting these sergeants, the retinue longbowmen are just going to be racking up kills. And basically a stalemate over here as well. We've got a fresh unit of Portuguese nobles that have been pushed in, but the pikemen are just not performing well. You can see that they're up to 50 kills. And we've got 8 here and 125 for the original units, so they will just not break. And we do have the support of the slingers now as well. That's bad news because he's actually going after my catapults with his slingers. I pushed a unit of spearmen in to help give some missile block to the catapult crew so that I don't lose too many of the catapult crew, because the slingers can't do fire shots, so they won't be able to burn the catapult down, but they will be able to kill the crew. And this is also a problem. I'm starting to see the King's Bodyguard come over here. I'm not sure if he's going to be charging this unit of sergeants because it is in shield wall. And we do have some pikemen that are pulling back as well. But a big error for me is I've got my 2 units of dismounted caballeros here completely exposed. I was letting them rest a little bit because I had run them for quite some time. And I was going to let Azrian do a bit of the work on this very good defense here. You can see we've got the heavy billmen holding strong with a couple units of English foot knights. And what I should have really done is charged into the backs of this unit of spearmen. I don't really know what I was thinking here. But yeah, bad news bears. You can see the King's Bodyguard is there. And I hope that I get a unit over here. Yeah, you can see if I hold the space, I'm quickly trying to screen my unit, and then I realize I'm not going to have enough time, so I pull it back and try to get it into a shield wall. Come on, Spanish, you are out of time. Let's go. Whoa, a huge hit from the King's Bodyguard there. Thankfully, we were in shield wall, and I'm quickly counter-charging my second unit into the King's bodyguard. So disaster kind of averted there. I only lost about 15 men in that charge. So not too bad at all. But look at this, we've got more of the English Knights coming down. We have 2 fresh units here. Adrian, unfortunately, he was trying to block the King's bodyguard from breaking through, but just putting him into wedge, the Red Celt is able to hammer the French sergeants, and now we are in big trouble because all of our units are pulled out of position and we have more English Knights coming down. We are being fired on by the fort tower as well, so that is going to be getting some kills for us. Look at me, all gung-ho. I'm quickly charging forward some units like, yeah, I gotta catch the general. We're gonna kill the general and win this battle. And then the English just push through and I'm like, oh no, this is a disaster. I don't know what to do here. Here we go. Nope, not in shield wall this time. Huge hits into the infantry there. Absolutely disgusting. You can see he's trying to pull his unit through as well, but they did patch the cavalry, so it's not as effective. You can see he's starting to lose some units, but really not that many. And oh no, we've got 1 unit of Sergeant d'Armes over here, and all of my crossbows here are exposed. All of his archers here are exposed. We have nothing close by to defend them. Thankfully, he has moved his gendarmes a little bit closer. But now we're quickly forming up the sergeant d'armes here into a shield wall. I'm bringing my crossbowmen over here to try and volley into this cavalry. That was a pretty good volley, again having the straight line of sight. And we did break through here finally, which is excellent, but I think Adrian should have maybe held his pikemen back to block those units from, or the cavalry from flanking around. Look at this huge charge into the back of the sergeants, huge charge into the back of my dismounted caballeros, and they are starting to waver. The second unit is not even in shield wall for me as well, because they are caught up in melee at this point. And yep, another counter charge from the English, basically just sandwiching our infantry units. Huge hits there. This unit is again coming down this way. I quickly get my crossbow unit into position to fire. You can see that the Sergeant d'Armes is actually moving forwards as well. They steady up, but they are not even coming for us. I remember Adrian. Adrian was like, well, when he saw this happening, like, yeah, probably should have kept the pikes back. But again, that's a depleted unit. It is not even going to stop the cavalry, even though it was in shield wall. And now his very elite dismounted French chevalier getting the brunt of that charge. I'm quickly trying to, again, fire down with my crossbows, but they're obstructed by the building because they don't have a line of sight. There we go. So that unit of sergeants is gone. English Knights up to 143 kills here. My unit quickly trying to pull back to aid the dismounted chevalier, but this unit of English Knights is pulling back for a bit of a rest with 145 kills. So well done to the defenders so far. My catapult firing down onto the retinue longbowmen, trying to get some more damage here. I probably funneled too many men into this gap, but I just wanted to get them into melee so that the archers couldn't really focus them down as well. If they're back sitting here, they tend to take a lot more casualties. Pretty cool positioning here by his dismounted chevalier in this little quarter circle here. But unfortunately, they are being focused by the retinue longbowmen, so he does need to move those out of the way. And over here, still struggling against these early sergeants, or these high period sergeants from England. My 2 units of Spanish Order Foot Knights are being held back, which was really frustrating. And I am still nowhere close to breaking through on this gap. So it's very, very sloggy on my side of the battlefield. The action is now on the French side here. You can see the English Knights holding strong. I'm actually moving some of my dismounted caballeros, the heavy infantry here. I think they do have a brace ability, which helps them against a cavalry charge. But yep, the piquier is breaking. Well done to Noob Nath with his retinue longbowmen focusing down the pikemen, because I don't think they have any pikemen in their final stand. So the English billmen will be able to hold forever, but they'll be outranged by the pikemen. The pikemen will be able to take down the billmen in a 1v1 fight. Noob Nath actually pulling back his cavalry, waiting for another time, which was so annoying. And I think at this point, I was like, we need to lock down this corner over here. So I was pushing my units over. We want to capture this fort tower. We want to make sure that we eliminate any of these cavalry units from having this big, long area around the outside of the city to be able to quickly maneuver around and get charges into our men. If we lock down the street where the English knights are now, and maybe this street as well in between the buildings and the wall, we'll be in a much better position, and our archers will be much safer. But yeah, just a huge fight over here. We are finally breaking the English sergeants, but we've got the heavy billman here with 85 kills, holding pretty strongly. We zoom down into this fight here. Some of the buildings starting to smoke, which is very cool. And that arrow tower is in range of us as well. So yeah, I think it's another little lull, guys. Let me just make sure that that cavalry is out of the way for now. Yes, it is. So let's make another quick cut. This siege of Lisbon has been action-packed. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I know it's a longer battle, but I just don't want to cut out any of the action. So we'll pick it back up once we pushed a little bit further into the city. Alright guys, welcome back to the battlefield, and I've got my general's bodyguard to finally break that flank that the Portuguese nobles were holding for so well. You can see that now from the dockyards the way is open, and I've actually got a lot of units over here. But now that I've got my general over here, you can see we've got the Portuguese general has actually committed, I believe, with some more of the English knights, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we've got English knights in the high period with the king's bodyguard. Challenging my King's Bodyguard. Now, thankfully, my King's Bodyguard has triple gold chevrons, so he will be able to last for quite some time. I've also got some spearmen over here that are eliminating these crossbows and then will help me in this engagement. But if we could kill the Portuguese king here, it would be a huge boon for us and hopefully speed up the attack on the town center, because his units will have quite a morale debuff. But that being said, it's mostly English in the town center. A lot of the Portuguese units, unfortunately, dying close to the walls in the very beginning of the battle. So a lot of this is English. So Noob Nath really needs to keep his general alive, and he's smart about it. He's not moving his general in to assist, because he realizes that he is going to be the sole controller of the fight for the town center. But still 24 minutes left in this battle. We might do one more cut, because I think there is one more little lull before the actual fight for the town center does begin. But we did push up this street. We've eliminated that pesky tower in the corner. We've eliminated the towers over here on the gatehouse. I've got my crossbows over here set up in this street, which is big alarm bell. They are kind of out in the open here. We've also got some English knights just waiting, poised and ready for an attack. And yeah, there we go. Getting my crossbows closer to my infantry. But again, with the English knights, I am not prepared for the English knights here. I see them coming up the slopes from around the corner. I'm quickly trying to brace my men and get them into shield wall. And Noob Nath, he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to completely ignore that and go right around to these units here from the French, which are not in a formation, and he's going to get a good charge off onto this unit. There we go. Huge hit into the heavy infantry. I'm quickly trying to move my units around to kind of block this cavalry in, but he is pushing hard. He wants to go for these crossbows. And look at this, he's even moving a high period spearman unit in to get the arbaletier and eliminate them completely. I think that's a mistake. He doesn't have the manpower to be committing units like this. But then there's me being an idiot over here, just funneling all my troops in to try and stop this cavalry. Meanwhile, they got a really good charge on my dismounted caballeros. But they are going to waver, but thankfully we finally trapped this cavalry. And look at that, for nothing now. Now all these spearmen are just going to be outflanked. And actually Noob Nath is going to just commit with another unit of swordsmen pushing in against the dismounted French chevalier, which they were wavering, but I believe now they've steadied themselves. Yes, they are confident after that huge hit against the English Knights. And look at this, the English Knights turning back around and hitting the arbaletier in the flank. I think he should actually go for this unit of French Chevalier, see if he can break it completely. But look at these English Knights, up to 287 kills. We've also got the general coming around, the King's Bodyguard, and me again, not paying attention here with my dismounted caballeros coming around. One single unit, easily able to get charged by general's bodyguards here. I see this and I'm like, again, I quickly put them into brace, but it's not a good formation. And yeah, huge hit from the English. And look at this, now he's actually going to push past my unit once again, only taking, what, 2-3 casualties? And he's coming after this unit here. So just A+ play on the cavalry for both the Red Celt and Noob Nath here. And I am trying to volley him with my general. I know that's kind of a bit dishonorable, but at this point, I don't have any units over here. All my crossbows are completely exposed. So Azrian's like, quick, form up over here, I'll form up over here, and whichever one he charges into, the other one can fire into his back. So I was like, fair enough, let's do that. And of course, he does go for the... No, he goes for me. He charges into me, but thankfully the French are untouched, so they're able to fire into the general. But I think Noob Nath will just turn his general around and charge into the French crossbows. You can see we've quickly got some gendarmes, I believe, are coming into the battle finally. And this is a disaster. If Noob Nath loses his general, this could be the game. As I said, he has a lot of his units over here in the town center. But I finally did get the Red Celt's general. His general was, I think he just broke off the battlefield. He is still alive. So he's actually fleeing the siege of Lisbon right now. If we can get a slow-mo here. Let me see, which one is he? It's hard to say. He may actually have been killed. I'm not too sure. We'll see. Actually, if he has one more unit left, I think these slingers here should be able to tell in the morale. Actually, I won't be able to select his unit, unfortunately. Oh yeah, general dead. There we go. Eager general dead. So his general is slain on the battlefield. And my general, I believe he did come back, I think, but then he routed right again. So my general isn't dead. If you hover over my unit's morale, I think... wavering casualty sustained. No, so he still is alive. I think, is this him over here? Yeah, King's Bodyguard high, so he is still alive. So the Castilian general, or the Spanish general, has left the battlefield here. And look at this. We've got the English knights broken both of my spears, and now it's getting a huge charge into the side of the French, dismounted French chevalier. And he could come over here and break this unit of dismounted caballeros that I'm trying to block him with. I'm pushing another unit of dismounted caballeros into melee to just tear down this cavalry. Let's take a look at what else is going on. I think we finally secured the entire city. So you can see we've got the gendarmes finally moving in to block this back street here and also flush out any enemy cavalry that could still remain. And I am finally committing some units up into the town center itself. We've got the English foot knights here with some heavy billmen that will be challenging my dismounted caballeros. And over here we're putting pressure on the English foot knights, which did push forwards from the original defensive position. Now, the big problem is that Azrian still has a lot of his archers, so that's going to be an issue for the heavy billmen here. The heavy billmen are what's going to win the battle for Noob Nath. He's got 3 units left, but unfortunately, a lot of his retinue longbowmen have used up their ammunition, and Nath is being very smart and conservative with his ammunition because he knows that Azrian, he has 1 unit of pikemen left. And Azrian was trying to keep that as the ace in his back pocket because he knows how valuable the pikeman is going to be when challenging the billman. But look at this over here. The English knights over here were just absolutely brutal. Like, they will not break. My spears are wavering. My dismounted caballeros are wavering. Finally, the English knights start to waver. And we've got the gendarmes over here, which are pushing forwards to capture this tower. But now the English retinue longbowmen are activated, and they're going to rain down death onto the French cavalry here. Not to mention the arrow tower here is going to get a lot of kills as well. Oh, here comes a good volley. Oh, taking down the hit points of the gendarmes there. Quickly lowering the English flag, and we'll replace it with a Spanish flag. Ooh, volley after volley into the French cavalry here. But I think at this point, the gendarmes, they've kind of expended their use. They would have been way more useful earlier on, I'd say halfway through the battle, in locking down those English knights. But now that we've kind of got them back to the town center, the cavalry doesn't have any options for flanking around. So they're kind of just a throwaway unit at this point. He is capturing this tower, which is good. That will definitely help us. By eliminating this tower from, as you can see, firing flaming arrows into the side of my dismounted caballeros. They're already shaken. General fled recently, so yeah, I'm struggling with some morale penalties as well. And I've got my crossbows into melee here. I was getting a little frustrated. Again, I couldn't get any position where my crossbows would be getting a good shot. I would set them up, and then they would just continue to walk forwards until they were in melee. So yeah, the crossbows have kind of expended their use for me. I mean, 17 kills and 38 kills. Nothing to write home about, that's for sure. But I do have some more of the dismounted caballeros coming over here to challenge the town center. Challenge those heavy billmen, which are holding the choke point. And yeah, there we go. The gendarme just getting absolutely annihilated. But as I said, they did take down the town center, which is... they did take down that tower, which is very nice. And look at this over here. They actually broke our flank here and are charging English foot knights out and taking on our arbaletier here. We've also got some spears which are flanking around the unit, probably looking to ensure that they do not return. We've also got some slingers pushing here as well. Now, this is where gendarmes could have been very useful, and I don't think that Azarin has any... Yeah, he's got one left. So, if he had brought this unit in and flanked around, this unit... this choke point is wide open. Wide open. We could have easily taken them out right here, but unfortunately we're just a little slow getting our cavalry in. I didn't have any left at this point. In fact, I'm pretty much out of infantry as well. This is all that I have left, like 3 units still fighting. They're kind of suffering due to the general fleeing the battlefield. But yes, it's really, really good tactics here. You can see the spearmen just reconquering the city. So it's such a war of attrition, back and forth, back and forth. Thankfully, these Abaletier are actually holding quite well against the English foot knights. Holding their own in melee, hoping desperately for more French reinforcements to arrive soon. Let's take a look at what the balance of power is. Should be pretty well in our favor, yes, because the French have quite a few troops left. You can see he's got some voltigeurs de commune, which are the communal halberdiers, and he's got his piquier. He's got some sergeants left and a lot of ammunition in his archers, which is excellent to see. But there we go. Those crossbows have broken off the battlefield. I think he should pull these 2 units back to the town center. But we do have the catapult crew, or the bombard crew, coming in from this gate here. And I believe that they were able to, the defenders were able to turn their catapults, their bastion catapults, around and fire into the backs of our units, which was also frustrating. So they're using everything at their disposal to try and win this battle. And we see the amount of men. So yeah, 3,500 to 2,300. So we only have a 1,200 man advantage now. They've definitely whittled us down. We had like a 3,500 man advantage at one point, and we've just suffered so many casualties in this slog to get up the slopes and then into the town center. But it's going to be a little bit of a grind here, guys, so let's do one more cut, I think, and then once the battle for the town center finally begins on all sides, we'll bring it back. Guys, welcome back to the last portion of the battle here. This is the push for the town center, and Azarin Fox has moved forwards his piquier into melee against this very strong choke point, and the retinue longbowmen are focusing down the piquier with everything they have. You can see Azarin is desperately trying to pull them out to maybe save them for another time. They've only got 5 kills to their name and have lost probably a quarter of the unit. Look at their missile block, it's 1. It's basically non-existent. So he's going to try and pull them around, maybe out of the way of those retinue longbows, but Noob Nath just on point with his battlefield awareness, firing up and over the buildings, focusing it down. And look at the numbers dropping. Azarin, I don't think he thought that this was still in range, so he stopped the unit there. They lost another probably 10 to 15 men. and they're continuing to be volleyed by the retinue longbowmen as they pull further and further away. So utter disaster there for his last unit of pikes. Thankfully, though, they don't have too many units of billmen. They've got one unit of heavy billmen here on this side, and I'm pretty sure that that is the last one, because they've only got swords on this side, and they did have a unit of heavy billmen down here, but it has broken. And this is where I've used my crossbows to good effect. I actually moved them around to this ramp, and the reason that they're able to fire is because you can see that the French forces are much lower than the English forces, so the crossbows are able to fire up and over the heads of the French without being obstructed, and that is really helping us to tear down this defense at the back. You can see we also have some of the Voltigés de Commune held in reserve. But yeah, starting to waver over here, the sergeants. I'm really impressed with how the English held here, though, considering that their general is dead. And he is still holding strong. The English foot knights don't look like they're breaking anytime soon. There goes my last unit of Spanish Order knights, so I'm basically down to my 2 units of crossbowmen. So it's funny that the Red Cult and I have pretty much been eliminated in this battle, and it's basically an England versus France fight, which is funny because during this conflict, it was the Spanish that were attacking the Portuguese. And it's funny that the Portuguese are not in Lisbon, the Spanish are not in Lisbon, but the English are now fighting the French like it's some 100 Years of War 2.0 going on. But here we go. This is getting desperate here. We've got the last of the Portuguese levy slingers pushing into melee. The retinue longbowmen that have used up their ammunition have gone into melee. English foot knights have broken, and I think this is a good time to form up the Voltigés de Commune and push them in to eliminate this choke point. I think that if we are going to get into the town center, it's going to be with this back choke point. So with that in mind, I would really like to have the gendarmes closer so that we could actually push through. In fact, I think a good charge, if we pulled back and did a good charge with the gendarmes, it would be over right now. But Azrian is once again ready to push his piquier back into melee, but Nubnath is right there with his retinue longbowmen to begin firing down on the pikemen again as they try to make it to the front lines. Oh, and what a disaster for these pikemen. They did not work out in Azrian's favor. I think they have 5 kills. Silver gold chevrons as well. You would think that they would have a little bit better morale, but once the unit starts dropping 10 or 15 men with every volley, they just begin to break. And I think that they are actually wavering now. Yep, so 5 kills, 46 men left in the unit, 43. And the English see off the French pikemen. And this is pretty much it for the French as well. You can see he has his general and 1 unit of dismounted French chevalier, and that is it. If we take a look at the man count, it's actually pretty close, 2,000 to 1,100, so we only have about 900 more men. Well, actually, it's 2,050 to 1,150, so it's a 1,000-man advantage. So this is really still anybody's game. The billmen over here are really holding strong, but Azrian is funneling troops through this little choke point here. You can see he's really lining them up and then trying to curb it around the hole in the defense here and actually getting into the retinue longbows to stop them from firing. So now we are starting to break into the town center. It's starting to look more promising for us, which is good. I'm seeing some English foot knights here, which have shattered, so it's down to 1 unit of foot knights with some retinue longbowmen holding this side. We've also got 2 units of retinue longbowmen holding this side, and my crossbows are starting to rack up some good kills now that they're in a good position. You can see 129 and 146. But I think this is where we are able to get into the town center. But you can see again Nath with his retinue longbow actually breaking the archers and oh no, that's the foot knights are breaking, but pushing us back out of the city. So he's actually blocking this little gap that Azrian is trying to funnel men through. You can see his dismounted chevalier starting to waver now, his bombard crew's wavering. The billmen are still holding strong. They've got 177 kills, but they need to hold and not break. If they break, then the English will have nothing left to hold back the dismounted heavy infantry and the halberdiers that are over on this flank. Well, yes, now you can see that the retinue longbowmen are starting to waver. Everybody's starting to waver. Quickly taking a look at the men count, 1,700 men left on the battlefield. So pretty much, I believe we started with 11,300. and we ended with 1,700. Such an epic battle, guys. Huge scale battle. Let's take a look at the results here and then end this marathon of a siege. So those of you guys that are still here, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for sticking it out to the end, and I do hope you enjoy these longer siege battles. So my King's Body got 139, which is pretty good. My Caballeros didn't really do too well. A couple of the Spanish Order Foot Knights doing pretty solid. Looking at my Pikes, 149, which is good. The rest didn't really perform that great. Some of the dismounted Caballero Infantry did really solid. Actually, I'd say most of them did. But my Spanish Order Foot Knights, these were the guys that were fighting the Portuguese on the walls and in the streets here when the flood of Portuguese came down the road. They just slaughtered them. 209, 146, 337, 147, 179, and 207. And speaking of slaughter, take a look at the kills on my Moorish archers. One of them, 439 kills. So almost 1,000. Well, if we go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so about 1,500 kills with just my archers. The crossbows by the end doing pretty well. This unit, not so much. And the cavalry doing it pretty well. And look at the bombard, 247 kills and 125 with my catapult. Looking at Azrian Fox here with his dismounted French Chevalier, the 199, 124, 122. Yeah, so he got over 100 kills with most of them. His poor Piquier, though, really didn't perform that well. The halberdiers, the cheap militia halberdiers, doing much better for him. His infantry, a couple of them didn't even see battle, but most of his units did. Not as high of kills as with his archers, but again, he did kind of bring them in late game. He did good with this unit of crossbows, so 288, and his cavalry, really good kills. Not the gendarmes, though, unfortunately. Looking at Noob Nath and his English force, 125. So far, mine is the most kills. His Billman, 246, 132, 117, 183. That's not too bad. Usually they get higher kills there, though. His sergeants did okay, but look at this unit of English Foot Knights. 400 kills. That's a Tier 1 unit. An early period English Knight unit, absolutely wrecking on the battlefield. And yeah, 412 with his archers here. 239, 324, 222. So he did really well with his archers and his cavalry too. Well over 100 kills with his cavalry and 212 kills with its catapult. And looking at the Kingdom of Portugal, a lot of his spears didn't get too many kills, but spears rarely do. His municipal halberdiers focused down early, unfortunately. A lot of his dismounted Portuguese nobles getting wrecked, but a couple of them getting 133 or 135, 104, 126. That's pretty good. His slingers doing really well with his slingers. Red Celt always does. 180 there, which is good. And his cavalry, one of them getting 176 kills. So very solid, I think. So the most kills, 439, I believe. So that would beat his, but 412, so it was close between the retinue longbowmen. And I don't think Azrian got more than that. It doesn't look like it. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed today's battle. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. And as always, I will see you in the next one.